I'm sorry. But I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world, that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
All right, welcome, Divine Ones. We have a great show for y'all tonight. A little emotional from that video. That was a very powerful video, and I wanted to play that for you all because I understand that many of you are feeling some despair right now, and you have nothing to feel despair about. I promise you. We have divine beings that are assisting us in every possible way. Tonight, we've been blessed with the opportunity to have some of those divine beings with us. Okay, so tonight is part 4 of our series with the amazing team of Americans in Action with Christo's, Ananda, and Jason. We also have Cohen, who is going to be with us tonight too, because Cohen has utilized the services of Americans in Action. And he's out there in the trenches fighting the good fight as well, as we all are. So what I'll do is bring in Cohen real quick here. How you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing well, brother. Thanks for having me tonight. I am so pumped.
For being here. Yes. So did you get to watch that video, the opening video?
I did. That was powerful.
Yeah, I wanted to play that because, this is kind of like the dichotomy of this world that we're living in right now, right? And, we know that it seems to be that we have some darkness that's trying to overtake us, but yet we really are in this amazing battle of light versus dark, and we are diminishing the dark. And all of us, you and I've talked about this on my Telegram channel. People want to know, what's the plan? Who's gonna fulfill the plan? We're the plan. We've been the plan the whole time. That's been part of the divine design. That's right. And so this amazing group of people that we're going to have with us here, I love them. I love them. I have this amazing circle of individuals that I know that I can trust. Not just trust in the sense of that when they tell me something, I can take it, that it's absolute truth, but trust with my spirit, trust with my heart, so to speak. I have this amazing circle. And I also, first, I need to say this. I need to say happy birthday, Cookie, who's one of our moderators. She's been one of my moderators for a year and a half. So happy birthday, Cookie. Just wanted to throw that out there as well. Kathy is an amazing moderator of ours, CB's daughter. She does an amazing job as well. I'm so grateful for these people, for their support. Brother, I'm grateful for you as well, because I know you're in the trenches in this battle too. And,
but it's so fun though. It's like once you, and I got a chance to sit down with Ananda for a couple hours, and she just laid out some of the most, it's so simple, but it's just, it just made things click. And when that clicks, you realize, wait a second, we're not like fighting for our independence. That was already done. We are the beneficiaries of a trust, and it's just up to us to go get it. And when that clicks, it's like, we're in the trenches. This is a blast.
It is. It is. You know what? Speaking of which, speaking of blast.
Yeah.
I think we need to do this, right?
Yes. Rosh Hashanah is tomorrow night. Yeah.
I love that. All right. Well, let's bring in the amazing team. All right. Americans in Action. We have our divine Christos. Hello, brother.
Hi, Cohen. Hi, ML.
Hey, greetings.
Right. It's such a
bring
pleasure.
In Ananda. Hello, divine Ananda.
ML, Cohen. Hi, Christo.
Brother Jason.
Hello. Hi, ML. Hi, Cohen.
Hi, Jason.
Nice.
You comment, Cohen, about that it's so much fun. 2 weeks ago, you might not have said that, but when you get the information, especially how Ananda enunciates it and brings out the powerful trust law, it does become fun. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason for that is that we know that this law comes from the Bible, comes from Genesis in particular, and that when we bring that to the court as a friend of the court and not an enemy of the state, they have to listen. Their backs are against the wall because of the fact we people should know that people get into trouble because they don't realize that they look at us as being the trustee and they the beneficiary, and we have to announce and debunk that and turn that around to the truth, we are the beneficiary, like you just said, Cohen. And you're right, it becomes so much fun. So we've had about 25 cases since we started this, and we're 25 for 25. And so that's how powerful that is. And that isn't on us. That's on upstairs. Yeah. That's on the Father. And he brought us this information, and it's been around for eons. And just many people, most people, have never tapped into it. And I think that's part of forsaking God, because if you're not bringing God into your life, well, God doesn't bring him into your life. So, it's back and forth. It's a relationship. And so it's pretty amazing when you're open to receive. Ask and you shall receive. And boy, that is so true. And I love to see that smile on your face, Cohen, because I know you were in dire straits. And I don't know where it's at right now, but I do know that Ananda is very powerful. The whole team is Jason, Ananda. We also have a couple other guys, Maddie and Clark. They're kind of behind the scenes, but they help us tremendously in making us a potent angel of light in regards to this whole situation. And it's so wonderful because you become so confident, you become so calm, you become contented, and it's just a matter of standing, which is such a joy. It even says it in the Bible to stand. And so with that, it's like, hallelujah, we are living a high truth that so many of us have forgotten over the lifetimes. So I'm so pleased that you feel so good about that. Isn't that great, ML? Because ML, you introduced us to Cohen, so that was wonderful. Look at what is happening with that relationship. Thank you so much.
Well, I consider Cohen a brother. I mean, an absolute brother. Not just saying that because that's, I do consider him a close kindred spirit brother, divine brother. I consider all of you family, actually, because it's one thing I've learned since I've been in this truther movement is most individuals that I've come in contact with, sadly, my light ends up bringing out that darkness, so to speak. And so I have to separate myself from those individuals only because I have a heavenly mandate. I'm an ELIAS. That is my heavenly mandate. As an ELIAS, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And the Most High God saw fit, brings us together, and this family just keeps flourishing and flourishing and flourishing itself. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, that's so true, ML. It's something that people should be aware of, that when you discover who you are, that's number one axiom of being a potent warrior of light. When you discover that, everything aligns, not only in the court situation or dealing with the darkness, but in your own life. So you can tell if you have discovered who you are, because everything falls into place. It is so magnificent. It's the kingdom of heaven, is it not? And so that's what happens. So you must, if things aren't going well, just know one thing. Forgive yourself, number one. And number two, just know that if you fall upon people like all of us and anybody else's of the light, that now you're starting to discover who you are. And there's more to that. I'm sure Jason and Ananda will elaborate on that. But for the most part, it's such a magnificent healing, is it not? It's so amazing. Before we go on, I just want to bring up two things that I feel very important. I thought we were blessed with that woman becoming prime minister of Italy, because she seems to be of the truth, until I found out today that she actually said that she was supporting Zelensky and the Ukraine in the narrative and the propaganda that's coming from our government here and the press. And I was so sad with that because of the fact that, of course, I want everybody to know, with the research that we have done, Putin is of the light. Putin is actually, he went into the Ukraine, number one reason, not all the reasons, number one, is he had discovered there were 43 bioweapon labs funded by the government, U.S. government, and they were creating viruses to push into the humanity again to further the genocide that they're trying to do. And so he went in there and that's the first thing he did. He demolished all 43. And they hate him for that. Now, there's other reasons, like, all the politicians probably around the world, but certainly here in America, use the Ukraine to launder their millions of dollars that they get unlawfully, immorally from all of our trust and from CCP, millions of dollars, and Big Pharma, millions of dollars that they're paid. And so that's another reason why. And we must also realize that the person acting as president here has a huge estate in the Ukraine. And I heard, I was not there, so this is hearsay, that there's tunnels underneath there and some nefarious things going on. I think you know what I mean. So anyway, I wanted to bring out to the people, please research the Putin situation and Russia and make sure that you are on the side of the truth in regards to that whole situation. By the way, in backing that up, what did Putin say today or yesterday? He called the Western government, meaning here, Satanists that are running, that infiltrated our government. And we all know that that is absolutely the truth. And he has the
Babylon
to bring that out worldwide. Oh my goodness.
Well, let's go a little bit farther than that too.
Okay.
So the real quick history of the reason why the world is backing Khazaria. Oh, I'm sorry, Ukraine. I mean Khazaria. Ukraine is the Khazars,
like
the Khazarians.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the Khazarian Mafia. It's their homeland. So let's go back 1,200 years ago. The king of the Khazars, Khazaria, was doing horrific things to people, right? And so the king of Russia said, whoa, you can't be doing that stuff. You gotta clean your act up. And we think that you need to adopt one of the world's 3 religions, and that's going to make you all better. So they adopted Judaism. Of course, they hijacked it. They didn't adopt it. They came up with their own version of Judaism, the Talmud, the Satanic Bible for them. And they still continued on with their treacherous, evil, Luciferian, satanic ways. Right. So the king of Russia had to clean house, took out the king of Khazaria, and a bunch of people. And the remnants of that king vowed that they would clean that bloodline out, the king of Russia's bloodline out. So what happened? Well, let's fast forward, 1,100 years, the Bolshevik Revolution took place. Who funded the Bolshevik Revolution? The Khazarian Mafia, the Rothschilds funded it. They took out the Romanovs, Tsar Nicholas II, but they didn't take them all out. We actually have a descendant who is alive right now, who is the Queen of Russia. All right. So they didn't take them all out. But that's the reason why, because they know that once Ukraine falls, Israel falls as well. We were always told Israel will be last. Well, there's a reason for that. Because Israel's last stronghold is Ukraine. And once Ukraine goes bye-bye, so does Israel as well. There you go. If you guys want to add to that, go right ahead. Please do.
That is awesome. Now, I just wanted to cover it just a bit because we have other things to talk about for sure. But I just wanted to align your audience into, if you're not there and really know about Putin and Russia, what's really going on, please research it yourself. By the way, don't believe anything we say here tonight. I really urge everyone to research and vet all the information because it has to live here, not here.
That's right.
If it just lives here, it's not going to be potent. It has to live both places. Here for the substance, here to help you execute it. And that's what it is. And Cohen will say to that. I wanted to say one other thing as we move on. The NTTV, Nicholas, we saw you on there. And it was a wonderful 3 or 4 minute thing that you said. I loved it. Would you share with the audience what you did on that video? ML?
On which one?
It's a video that is really being promoted now. It's online. It's when probably, I think David Straight was on there, a bunch of people. And I was so pleased to see you all of a sudden come on the air. And you were saying, I forgot exactly what you said, but I totally, yeah, that's true.
Okay.
I'll think about
I'm trying to think which one you're talking about.
I believe it was a compilation.
With Nicholas?
Veneman?
Well, with Nicholas Veneman, I've never been on his show.
It was a compilation, and he took a clip of you speaking, and you were throwing down with some truth, and it was awesome. Right. So we'll find it. We'll send it to you so you have it.
I'll send you a link. On it so
yeah, you'll like it.
Well, I know in the past, I didn't know I was actually an international superstar. I was on the late night show, Jimmy Kimmel's show. I was on CNN's show a few times, on their news shows, because I was talking about the true history of, the bloodlines. It's about the bloodline wars. So I just went down this bloodline path, talking and educating people about the Clooney bloodline, Abraham Lincoln, and everything else like that that's lining up right now. And what's fascinating is, of course, the mainstream media and entertainment take what we say and they try and mock us. But I love it because they're putting us out there front and center as truthers. Even though they're trying to mock us, it's opening up people's ideas and their minds going, what the heck is this guy talking about? I didn't know this stuff. So, I'd be fascinated to see that actually compilation. I've seen.
Okay, I'll send that to you so you see it. And I'll give you the timeline that you can go right to it. So you don't have to go through the whole thing because it's about a 40 minutes or 50-minute tape. So with this, what's really exciting is I would love to hear from Ananda and Cohen in regards to your experience together and how you feel about everything that Americans in Action are doing with you, Cohen. Ananda, what did you tell him? Did you tell him the secret of the covenant? What's going on?
I did. And, what's so interesting is the secret of the covenant. That's the trust covenant. It cannot fall upon deaf ears. So one who cannot receive it, it wouldn't even make sense to them and it wouldn't resonate. And when I speak about trust, I'm speaking about trust law. But trust is esoteric. So the first trust is the covenant, where God entrusted us with dominion over the land, the air, and the water. And us, in turn, it's a two-way street. You were just talking about that, ML, where we, in turn, we have to trust our Creator, trust our instincts. That's God working through us. And so there's that synergy, and that's trust. And then when we look to the Bible and we read it in code, we realize the first 5 books of the Bible are indeed a trust indenture. So it's up to us to look at it and decipher the code. And the code only comes to us when we're pure of heart, we're sincere in our pursuit of learning and understanding of upholding God's highest law. And so it was so joyous to share with Cohen because he gets it at an innate level. So he had some hiccups, as we all do in our daily lives here on planet Earth and in America, because we're dealing with agents of a corporation that go out of their way to harass the common man and common woman and make up crimes when there's been no victim and all kinds of craziness and fines. So with that, when we apply trust law in operation of trust, it becomes very simple, like what Cohen said, usually 1 page, 2 pages, or 3 pages. We don't need to go on and on and on with 60 pages of testimony of how our rights were trampled. We all know that our rights have been trampled. But what we do here is we nip it in the bud, so to speak. And it's been a very beautiful and sacred application of the law, and it's being recognized by all jurisdictions. So hallelujah. Yay. And it's been fun getting to know you, Cohen.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to get to know you as well. It's when you spend time with somebody, you can really feel the depth, and that's what resonated first. When you talk about trust law, there's first, you have to define what is trust, and that's something that you clearly carry with you as a mantle and a deep understanding of that. And when you come at it from that perspective of trust and recognizing not just that we have the duty and the privilege and the honor to stand, that's part of it, is standing. And that's, I've had some experience with that throughout my life. But then when you add to that, knowing who you are and being oriented as the beneficiary of, as you talked about, the kingdom of God is at hand, and we're the beneficiary of the fullness thereof. And when we not just know that here, but know that all the way connected, all parts of our body connected with that, tapped into that revelation, those two things connected, it opens doors. It's the keys to the kingdom.
Hey, Cohen, when you first started with Ananda and you told her your situation, what was the first thing she suggested you to do?
She suggested that I put together a letter, and she coached me through some of the components of that letter, about the first one, just not being an enemy of the court, being a friend of the court, recognizing that that's our place. We enter through the gates with thanksgiving, and we enter into the courts with praise in our heart. That's a joyous occasion. And so she coached me through some of the elements of that. And so I kind of spent some time just meditating on it, and didn't really touch the laptop for a couple of days. And then when I felt inspired, I kept, I would meditate on it, and I'd let those ideas get stronger and stronger. And I was finding that it was reshaping the way that I thought about not just the court case that I was in, but a lot of other components of life. It just started making these minor adjustments where, I was like, wow, trust is everything, and everything is trust. There's nothing that's not trust. And when that clicked, I felt a divine unction to go sit down at my laptop, and I poured it out, and it took me about an hour. And I sent it over to Ananda, and she had some additional terminology to avoid, and then some terminology to add into there, and help me with the vocabulary that I still, don't have as, I don't have the grasp of it, but I have the idea of it. There's the vocabulary.
Right there. That's an important part right there that I would like people to really get. It's important when you uncover what trust law is, and you found it, your energy, you get an energy vibe that really starts to do, but you must apply it meticulously and not bring in any of your past, what we call patriotic stuff or fight.
Mm-hmm.
Not about fight. Anyone goes into court that fights, you're going to lose. And we've seen it over and over again, including Sidney Powell. Anyone who goes into the fight, they're going to lose. So the friends of the court is a mind twist, because we're used to, we got to fight this. We got to really knock them out. No, that's not what it's about. It's about, just like if I get stopped with a privateer and he wants to give me a citation, I make him my friend. And in making my friend, he usually doesn't write the citation. And that's how it happens. So that's a very important. And isn't that amazing, that twist? Because you said you took a couple days to integrate it in your being. And then all of a sudden, boom, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoyed working with you. I thought you were very thoughtful. You didn't just like take it and then just try to duplicate a template. You made it your own. And you really, through prayer, through devotion, through meditation, and then you started getting your own downloads and your own inspiration, which is what it's about. So the living man, the living soul, the spirit-filled men and women, we are original and we are unique, just as God intended. So none of our papers should look the same. I want to share with your viewers, ML, that everything is trust and there's nothing that is not trust, like what Cohen was saying, and including the process for folks to become American state nationals. what people don't realize is when they become an American state national, they're elevating themselves into a higher jurisdiction, a higher law. And they're also, if they're doing the spiritual work as they're doing the paperwork, they almost go hand in hand. It's kind of a given. It'd be hard not to. When they do that, they're elevating themselves. But what they don't realize is when they become American state nationals, they may not know how to operate in the private or through operation of trust. They hear the words, oh, I'm a beneficiary, but what does that mean exactly? So we teach you how. And I love that you're so candid, Cohen. You're like, hey, I didn't know all the words. But guess what? Because God wrote the law in our hearts, he made it simple. So we don't even need to know the right law words or all these codes and rules and regulations. Because if you look at statutory codes and laws, there are over 300,000 federal statutes, and there's over 60 million state statutes. So no one could ever know the law. It is a sea of confusion, and that is on purpose. So when we get simple, keep it real simple, you could literally, let's say you were dragged into court in shackles, you could literally look around and go, I don't understand anything that's going on in here. And you're going to put yourself in a better position than if you were to try to spout constitutional law and fight for your rights. You're better off to just say, I don't understand anything, because they're kangaroo courts. They're a fictitious world. It's a made up language called legalese, and you need an interpreter to know how to speak it and understand it. So you're better off to say, I don't understand a thing.
Yeah.
And what you were saying with the spiritual, Ananda, that always turns me on, as you know. Because I love bringing in God in everything that we do. And so what happens with that is if we're on a path and we see things going on and we actually experience corruption and fraudulent citations and they're coming after you, we know it's all fraud. What we are in, the energies around us are like this. It's all corroborated. And you can't flow. The energies can't flow. So we feel confused and things aren't making sense and what's going on, and you can't find the answer. So when you discover the truth of God, and in this trust law coming from the Bible, and you get it here, first you'll hear it here, but then like you did was so brilliant, Cohen, meditated for 3 days, you let it culture, you let it really maturate, or whatever that word is. And so what happens is once you get it, guess what happens with that energy is like this. It goes like this. And it creates tunnels. And that's when you can channel. That's when you're open. What I say is open to high God, open to the Father, open to the Spirit, and everything starts to make sense. And when the energies are flowing, well, that's the opposite of dis-ease, not flowing. Everything comes into effect. So you're affected mentally, physically, spiritually, when you start to align and create that flow, those tunnels of all that energy coming into you. And you're fed every second of every day. Isn't that brilliant? Isn't that wonderful? And so that's why we get so excited, because the energies are flowing. And that flow of energy is what life is.
Yes. And it's such a blast.
Yeah.
It's such a blast. And then I look at you, ML, and you have the beautiful peace flag in back. And look at the way the stripes are going.
There you
up
go.
And down.
That's
right.
The
channel. That's life. It's not dead on its side. That's the channel of life coming through you.
Exactly. Hey, I want to move on if you don't mind. And I would like Jason to go through what our dear friend in Florida had and our dear friend in Washington State had. These are two brilliant cases that they were both like, oh my God, I'm going to jail or I got to pay $100,000. They didn't see a way out of it. And all of a sudden our paths came together. What happened with the gentleman in Florida?
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Christo. First of all, ML, Shana Tova. I used to study to be a rabbi in Israel, and Shana Tova means Happy New Year. And Rosh Hashanah is in Hebrew, Rosh is the head, and Shonah is the year. So it's the head of the new year. So it's a blessed new beginning for everybody.
Yeah.
Which beautiful thing. And I'll talk about Florida. It was a miracle because the gentleman that we were helping in Florida, he came to us through one of our workshops that we were hosting down in Florida in Orlando. And he had been doing a lot of, he had a court case that he was doing a lot of Patriot things. And just so everybody knows, we're not against Patriot implementations of remedies, because every remedy has its own particular place. However, the most beautiful thing about trust is, as Cohen was saying and Ananda was saying, everything is trust. There's nothing that's not trust. And the only thing that exists is the existence of God, spirit, right? And by definition of law, when you enter into the higher jurisdiction, by definition, the mirror image, which is Babylon, will have to yield to the higher jurisdiction. But as it says in the Torah, not the Talmud, but the Torah, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart. So as Christo was saying, and as Cohen was getting, and as Nanda was saying, when you come from the higher jurisdiction of your heart, you automatically enter trust, which is the love frequency, which overrides Babylon. And now you have the substance over form.
I was just going to say that. Thank you for saying that, Jason.
Yeah, so even the law speaks of what we talk about spiritually. Substance is your consciousness, your energy, like Krista was demonstrating. And the form comes from the intellect of mind, the implementation of it in the document. However, if you don't have the substance first, two people can write the same document, same words. But if one is coming from only Babylon or intellect or looking for some sort of silver bullet, what will happen is those words, because it's not coming from what we call clean hands or consciousness, it will backfire them, because the same way trust, law, and God is unconditional love and unlimited, the reverse is also true. It's kind of got a backlash on you.
Scorpion.
So when we work with people, it's a scorpion. We work with people, we make sure that they're in the right heart and the right consciousness, like Cohen and our guy in Washington and in Florida, so that they can hear it. Hear, O Israel, hear with your heart. It's Shema is to hear, but they say, why with your heart? Because it comes from within your heart where you hear, not from here, but from here. So when we were working with our guy in Orlando, he was actually up for 4 counts of a felony, which would actually lead him into probably, I think, like 5 to 10 years in prison. And he was working with a bunch of
3 years per felony. 15.
That's right, 3 years per felony, so 12 years in prison. And and just so you know, another preface on this, we won't work with people who have done nefarious things, right? Because we have to come with clean hands. We are coming with honor. So this guy was actually, he was thrown into the river without a paddle, let's just put it that way, and not by his own accord. So we met with him after our event in Orlando, and it was divinely orchestrated for him to come to that event. Just a lot of different miracles happened to have him get there. Then he waited for us after the event, and we consulted with him. And the first thing that we shared with him or spoke with him is that you have to get rid of everything that you know. Everything that you've done for the past 2.5 years, which has not made it successful, but has only made it worse, you have to get rid of. Just like Cohen, tabula rasa. You have to change your whole dynamic, because through the operation of law, when we say you come to the friend of a court, it's actually, in actual fact, it's an operation of law. Because if you're beneficiary and the court is trustee, then by definition, you are the friend of the court, because you're working in harmony, which is symbiotic with working with God or spirit. So we sat with this guy, reviewed all his documents, gave him some homework, said, okay, call us when you're ready. Because we don't just jump in. There has to be a shift. There has to be somebody who has to come to the kingdom of heaven on their own accord. Those who are chosen are the ones who consciously choose to go to the kingdom of heaven. Many are called, but those who say, yes, I will heed the call and walk through the gates upon my own accord, will they benefit as a beneficiary? So when he sat with it, he gave us a call, and we said, oh, Well, Baruch Hashem, that means blessed God. So we started with the documents. We reviewed everything. We told him this different homework, got rid of a lot of different things. Then we had him write his petition to the trustee of the court using specific language. Then we reviewed it, guided him, so on and so forth. He was going with this case for 2.5 years, doing a lot of different potential remedies, only making it worse. He came to us 2 weeks later. He was within 2 weeks of working with us. We submitted the documents. He followed us to the T. Exactly. It has to be exactly what we were saying, but coming from his own heart, but exactly what we were saying. He did it meticulously. Plus, he had the consciousness and the heart to hear it. And so he submitted his documents. Within a week after working with us, all of a sudden, the case disappeared, gone. They removed it. It was exonerated completely. Case exonerated, dismissed, closed, whatever you want to call it. But truly, it was. He would look up on the website prior to working with us, and it had the statutes of the case, the status of the case, what was going on. After submitting our documents, with us helping him, he looked up and it says, all of a sudden, there's no more record. It just vanished into the ethers of God. Now, why did that happen? Because he implemented exactly how we needed to with trust. And they don't keep it in the public once it goes into the private. And they were operating as the trustees, how they were supposed to. A miracle. Within 2 weeks, after 2.5 years of working other things, within 2 weeks, it was gone completely. That was Florida. And it's because he had the right heart, the right mind. Same thing with Washington.
Hold on, Jay, before you do Washington, please. I want to bring out one thing that's very, 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 very important. As we do this trust law, and as there's fines with fraudulent accusations and breaking of mandates and breaking of statutes, there may be a huge fine involved with it too. So what happens is when we align the energies, the judge, the clerk, has to tap into their trust and pay the fine. Now, that's a different thing than someone having money on their brain, and I want to tap the trust after money.
Right.
We do not work with those people.
That's right.
Because they think that that trust is theirs, and it is not, even though it's in their all caps name. That's a whole other story that we'll talk about later, but it's very important to realize this because you are off center if you're after the money.
I agree, Christo.
Is not after, but to align yourself with the truth and nothing but the truth. In other words, to God and nothing but God. So you're in service of God, straightening out the crazy and bringing the truth of the one, of bringing the truth of the existence of God consciousness in everything. And like Jay was saying, the higher jurisdiction, this is in the air jurisdiction, the highest jurisdiction is actually, they have to submit to that. They have to do it. It's otherwise they'll be in breach of trust, and they don't want to do that. It's a serious Class A felony, and they'll lose everything if they do. So they have to do it. Is that amazing or what? So I just wanted people to realize that. We do here, but it's important to align yourself to, okay, I'm a messenger of God, of the truth. We'll do everything we can to do that. It lives here. I use this to apply it. Boom. That's powerful. Thank you.
I love that. And, you know, it just goes to show you, it's that old adage that greed never pays. Yeah. So people, when they hear about the trust and they start licking their chops. Ooh, I'm a beneficiary of this magic trust. What ends up happening, I like to say, it'd be like giving the keys to a Ferrari to a 6-year-old. When you abuse the trust or you're going after the assets in the trust for personal gain, for lower self needs, for basically the wrong reasons, that will be a scorpion sting and that will bite you in the butt. So it's there for your benefit, but not for you to abuse in any way.
That's right. just what an abuse is that you may not even think is an abuse.
Right.
If you start talking about your case and you put it on social media, you're blabbing it out, you just became double-minded. You just committed a crime because you're bringing the private back into the public, and that's going to come back to you. Because you must realize that if any case is dismissed or closed, they can bring it back even years later. If it's exonerated, they can't bring it back. And so one of those three things would be there, but you really don't know most of the time because, like Jason was saying, they want to take it off record because they don't want anybody else to research it and find out what we did to be successful.
That's right. That's why it's in the private. And so when it goes into the private, that's where you want to keep it. That's why it's sacred. So that's why you keep it in the private and you have private meetings. So it's a beautiful thing, but there's a lot of little nuances to it. So you want to be very careful as you go.
You also have to remember, that Babylon or Rome, it fuels, the way it has its life force energy is through controversy. Okay, if you're going in fight for your right, they say thank you so much, because when you're fighting, you're giving them life force energy for them to perpetuate their conflict. And the structure of the country, or actually the world, in the Babylon is credit debtor, creditor debtor. If you act like a debtor, I should say, you're fighting, you're wanting the money, you're going after the trust, and they laugh at you because now you're giving them exactly what they want to perpetuate the credit debit scenario, and you're not acting as beneficiary or what you could call a creditor, right? We won't go too much into that, but the point of the matter is, if there's conflict, and if you're acting greedy, or if you're coming with not clean hands, or if you're acting out of dishonor, then you're fueling the fire. And what is their job as trustee? To protect and defend the trust. And if you're coming belligerently, or just in greed, or it's my money, it's not, because it's there for your benefit, but you have to come forth in honor, and you have to understand, really understand, and then understand the comprehension of all of it, right? So you implement the right, not only law form, but then the consciousness that is the precursor of the law form. Yeah. And then you can implement the trust avenue as harmonious, as opposed to in conflict.
Jay, that's so right. I just want to say one thing here that is very important, because it's a twist of mind stuff. If the court system is set up that if you go in to defend yourself, you are out of honor and you will lose. They will railroad you to a predetermined outcome. Now let's look at that. Did you hear what I said? I'm going in to defend myself. What's the whole court system set up? To defend. That's a losing proposition. That's why you lose most of the time. It's actually 98% of the time. If you have a bar attorney, you lose. And the bar system and bar attorney, we have time, we'll go into that a bit. But that's it. So look at that. It's like they're setting you up. Okay, go in and defend yourself. As soon as you do, boom, you're out of honor and they'll railroad you.
By
law is not a defense.
That's right.
It is a harmonious relationship that you, the beneficiary, makes with the trustee, and anything that you announce in court, and if it's not debunked in any way, it stands as truth. So as soon as you say, I'm beneficiary, you're a trustee, hey, I think there's been an attack on the trust. Could you please do your job and handle this? Thank you so much. You do such a great job. Oh my God. That's not defense. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, in the operation of trust, when you're living as who you are, and I don't even like to say as because it's who you are. When you're living beneficiary, it overrides plaintiff defendant. By definition, there is no conflict. So a defendant doesn't exist within the operation of trust. A defendant doesn't exist when you're living from a creditor point of view or a beneficiary point of view and implementing the system that exists for your benefit. The only time there is a defendant, and remember, they will assume you to be guilty until you debunk it. But as soon as you defend yourself, right, you've already inadvertently admitted that you're guilty. Therefore, you've already fallen into the trap, right? So when you're a beneficiary, you're a third party interest. You're not a plaintiff. You're not a defendant. You're a third party interest. Why are you a third party interest? You're a third party interest because it's your estate with your all caps name that you benefit from. So you're there to benefit from it. So you have a third party interest, and that's economical language. Interest is money. Third party is a party to a trust, and the trustee is the court, right? And in the way they operate it normally is that they will assume you to be the surety or the trustee, and then if you don't know what's happening, you get thrown under the bus to a predetermined outcome so they can capitalize off of this business transaction that's happening in court. That's all it is a business transaction.
So in realization of this, you look at it and you go, oh, if I'm going in to win a case, right there, that attitude is it's a game. And in a game, there's a winner and a loser. That's why we don't play the game. And they get so upset. But we don't play the game. We eradicate it. We're on your side, clerk, judge, administrator, magistrate, whatever you want to call him or her, or them or she, or never mind. And with that, right, and with that, you eradicate the game. So right when you do that, like Jay was saying, the game is over. And now the trustee, do your job. Go ahead, Jay.
In addition to that, we need to emphasize this. First of all, we're all here for educational entertainment purposes only. Like Christo said, just vet all this on your own. We're here to guide and have a great time with ML and Cohen. But having said that, in addition to what we do, we always encourage, don't ever set foot into that courtroom. These processes that we're describing, and 90% of what the people that we work with, there have been occasions where we have coached them after they've had to go in, but 90% of what we do is purely administratively. Because you being who you are, if you know who you are, why would you ever set foot into some place that you're not even aligned to? In other words, it's not your jurisdiction, it's not your world. If you know who you are, a living, breathing man, woman, masculine, feminine, child of God, right? Beneficiary. Why would you enter into Babylon where it's rigged against you? You're committing treason against your trust with God, your trust with the operation of law, and now you've just thrown yourself under the bus. Whereas the whole thing to do is just administratively. And you communicate administratively, and then it's over through multiple communication. And that's what we were doing with our guy in Washington as well. There was a pirate going after him for several months, and we were working with them with a variety of documents. And it was getting to a point where he was losing his hair like I have none, so he was losing his to be even with me because it was getting built up. But we said, listen, stick with it. Stick with it. That's the other key. Part of the game is endurance. Just like if you ever watch MMA or boxing or any of those type of things, it's always the endurance, or a marathon. It's not a sprint. Many people fail in this process because they tap out. But we said to our guy, we said, listen, we're not out of the woods yet. Hold on, trust us, and have the endurance. We're in your corner. So it got to the point like where Moses walks into the Red Sea up to his nose, and then the miracle happens. We said, listen, hang on. We're almost there, just like we're seeing on the planet today. And literally, we sent one more document in. And literally, like a week after they got that document, boom, the case was gone. It was gone. If no more record, dismissed on one screen and no record on another screen. But he had to push through that last hump, that last hill. But now it's over. So it's everybody, and Christo will talk more about this. Everybody has a soul journey in this journey. And there isn't one case that is exactly the same. There isn't one document, like Ananda was mentioning before, that is the same as anybody else, because you are a divine expression of your creator, which means whatever you create as an image of your creator is going to be unique unto yourself, even in the form that you submit. Even if there are certain sound bites that you have to put in there, it's going to come from your creation. And depending on what your karma is as a soul on this journey will be how long or whatever it is that you have to do. But if you stick with it and we help you in that journey, then you'll enter into kingdom of heaven as you follow the path.
Now, with that, it's important to realize one thing. 90% of the cases or situations that come to us, the people have a bar attorney. And when you hire a bar attorney, bar, by the way, of anybody that doesn't realize it, they probably do, but British accredited registry, their oath is to the state. They're still aligned to the crown in England. And so it's all about the money. Matter of fact, the word attorney means to twist, and they twist the law. And their job is to get the money from their client and give it to the state. That's their job. They'll never tell you that. That's their job. So when you hire a bar attorney, you basically lose right there. The reason for that is the bar attorney, the bar judge, the bar prosecutor are in collusion with each other for a predetermined outcome. That means you have to pay a huge fine or go to jail. Now, in that, when you have a bar attorney, that's why the judge, by the way, says if somebody goes there, I'm standing. You better get a bar attorney. No, thank you. He'll even go, I'm going to hold you in contempt of court, which you can't do with this particular item, unless you get a bar attorney. No, thank you. Right then and there, he knows he lost. He knows that he's in trouble because you are very smart. So what happens with a bar attorney is he is actually in collusion with the judge and with the prosecutor, and he'll be doing things like he'll tell you shh to shut up when you're supposed to say something. And then also, it takes 3 signatures in court for the court to assign you or put you in jail or prison. Who has those 3 signatures? Well, the judge, the prosecutor. Who has the third one? You are. And
your defense attorney.
But your defense attorney, bar attorney, has it, and he will sign you to go to jail, and he'll betray you right then and there without telling you, and you have no idea about it. And because he's in collusion with the judge, if he doesn't do that, they may disbar him. I mean, it's just horrendous what it is. In addition to that, the judge, the prosecutor, and the bar attorney makes tens of thousands of dollars that they pull from your trust, your all caps name trust, and they make that money right there. And most of them don't pay taxes on it. And there's a whole other thing that we can go after it that way called Form 420, which we'll talk about it another time. But with that, you see the setup? Oh my God. And some of these people, they just have no idea about it. I told all the truth. I did all the research with my attorney, and we still lost.
That's right.
As a matter of fact, there's 1 or 2 cases that we heard from the judge through the client that the judge said, well, you won this case, but I can't let you go away as a winner. I have to make you guilty, because if it goes away and the judge or the court loses, so to speak, the prosecutor has to pay all the court costs, and he doesn't want to do that. So you got to realize it's all pre-set up for you to lose. That's why you're pulling your hair out if you don't tap into God's law in this way. Isn't that amazing? Thank you, Father.
Let me add to that too, just for your
Hey Jay, would you add to that?
Yeah, let me add just so the viewers can have some tangible, just 2 points, some tangible implementation and integration to what Christo said, just with sheer logic. Okay. If you are beneficiary, if you're kingdom of heaven and you're sovereign, you've actually committed treason by hiring attorney because you give your power of attorney away. Number 1 point. Number 2, if you go into the court, okay, and they tell you you have to get a public defender, when you look at dockets, what does it say on the court for the prosecutor? State of. Well, who does the judge work for? The state. He's an agent of the state. If you get a public defender, who does the public defender work for? The state.
Who pays both of them?
The state. So isn't that just in pure logic and actual implementation, organic, being able to tangibly experience it without even having esoteric, without even having spiritual? If the state is paying the public defender, if the state is paying the court, and if the prosecutor is representing the state, isn't it a conflict of interest for you if you go in there as a defendant? Therefore, treason, therefore, giving your power away only gets you to set up for a predetermined outcome by the state. It's all private for-profit corporations, which is what a state is. State of. You can look up any state in the 50 states across the nation on Duns and Bradstreet, and you will see they are private profit for corporations, and the courts are subsidiaries of the state. But you, a living, breathing man, woman, child of God, masculine, feminine, you are outside of that jurisdiction and must live that way, but you can benefit from a system as that living, breathing man or woman when you implement the proper law form, i.e. God's law, trust law.
I love it.
With all this, all the information that's coming out, and you're vetting it and this and that, and your whole consciousness will begin to change in such a wonderful way. Now you have to get into action. You can't keep your experience and you're getting this wisdom all to yourself. You have an obligation, it's even stated in the Bible, you have an obligation to share the wisdom so that everybody can grow and everybody can be healed. So in doing that, like when I heard the PM of the woman, Georgia, from Italy, was aligning herself with the Ukraine, I wrote her 5 letters that I found various ways, Twitter, all kinds of, various emails. And I wrote her and I said, look, you'd better do your research, because whoever you have around you, they're giving you false information if you're aligning to the Ukraine. This is our responsibility. This can only help the situation. So you must retrain yourself and start communicating to the world and start aligning. And what you have wins with and what you feel and have experienced to be a high truth, share that with everybody. It's extremely important, okay? So that's why we call ourselves Americans in Action. So there you are. Now there's on the comment side, did you want to say something, ML?
I do, actually, because I love this. I really do. But there is a question that I need to ask you guys, because I know I'm going to get bombarded when we're done with the show before we do Thursday night show. And it's been hitting my main wall on Telegram. I've been DM'd like crazy. You never. So, all right. So last week there was a video that came out from this gentleman. I don't know this guy, but this gentleman at one time was connected to Field McConnell. And I don't know if you guys know who Phil McConnell is, but he was a truther, okay? And apparently he went to jail or prison for a couple of years, and he was released some months back. He's an older gentleman, and he was connected to JFK Jr., and so he's really in the know, so to speak. So this gentleman that did a video last week, well, he was basically calling out David Straight. Let's just put it that way. He was basically saying that all this crap is what he was saying about changing your status and becoming a state national, because this guy was teaching people how to do it himself. So I thought this is kind of ironic, actually. But this guy is now coming out saying it's all a scam. It's you know, he's painting a very negative portrayal and picture of, you know, the work that you guys are doing. But he didn't say anything about you guys. He was just specifically talking about David Straight and what's going on over there. But the problem is, you know, people paint us with a broad brush. So even though you guys are approaching this in a completely different way, a higher authority way, it doesn't matter in the minds of some of these people out there because they can't differentiate the difference. So what I would like you guys to do is explain, you know, why a person would want to go down this path first and foremost, because, you know, we kind of have to be elementary here in the sense that we're trying to walk these people down this path and help them have understanding and within themselves of, oh my gosh, you know, yes, God, source gave us sovereignty. We're eternal divine sovereign beings, which never goes away. But because we're born into slavery, in essence, right here on this planet, we have to learn how to reclaim that sovereignty, and there are essential steps. And as I told a lot of my listeners, because I've addressed this twice already, I've said, Americans in action, they approach this in a different manner than other individuals are approaching this. They approach it in the higher law. When you're talking about common law, trust law, God's law trumps all things. And I'm trying to explain to individuals that you guys have helped many, 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 many people in this process, not just changing their status per se, but as what you guys are explaining right now, helping people out of civil situations, you know, criminal situations and things of that nature as well. But I just want to give you guys that opportunity to explain to the persons, because I know people are going to bombard me if I don't ask this question. So I want you guys to please explain why this is important. It's not a scam. It's not unnecessary. It is, on the contrary, it's quite necessary, for crying out loud. Or I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. You know, so you know, whoever wants to feel that, please go right ahead.
Could I articulate a little bit more of the challenge, because there's an argument that I hear too. You know, if what the corporate United States government did through the trust was fraud, then why should that fall on my responsibility to do anything to correct that? You know, that's their fault. They've done the harm. I shouldn't have to do anything. I should just be able to live my life in freedom and not ever have to even think about that stuff. That's an argument that I hear oftentimes, and I know there's a response to it. I've done the work and found that answer, but I would really like to hear the way that you would address that, because there are a lot of challenges to this process.
Okay, so thank you so much for bringing this. We love this. We love questions and statements and situations like this. So in regards to this, I'll begin it, and I know Jason and Ananda want to say a few things as well. But I will say this. We don't champion this for anyone. This is a calling of the soul. I don't judge anyone that doesn't do it or that does it. I only go where I feel I experience a higher awareness, a higher love, a higher consciousness, and that through the application of it, it works and makes my life better. It frees me up. That's what I pay attention to. I don't care if it's right, wrong, indifferent, whatever. In my application of it, I am winning. It has improved my life. So I'm product oriented. I don't do something for the sake. I'm not like a believer, really. I'm not a believer. When I say that, I'm not talking about God. I'm talking about believer of any documents or anything. No. I see something resonates to me. I apply it. Oh my God. My life is now better. That's what gives me the reason to do any of this, not what anybody says. Here's another thing. When you enter, or let's just say when I enter into the kingdom of heaven, living in the private, I really don't pay attention to what anybody else does. I don't pay attention to what the enemy does. I don't live there. Why should I? It's like having a neighbor next door, and he's doing nefarious things. I don't care if he's barbecuing, having a party, whatever he's doing. It doesn't matter to me. I'm living in the private, and I love that I am. I'm in the kingdom of heaven, and so you're going to have people that. Well, I'm not saying that any of these people are this way, but there's a lot of people that are outspoken or leaders in the industry explaining things, and they're approached and they're offered millions of dollars to turn the direction against it, especially something that's working. So you got to vet these people. It's very important to do that. You have to choose, because it is a choice. You have to choose what you want to do to make your life better. For you to live in the private, for you to live in the kingdom of heaven. And whatever that may be, I don't know what it is. Walking 5 dogs every day down the road, it may be that. I don't know. For me, it's trust law. Now, here's something else, too, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ananda or Jason or both. We're talking about 2 different things here. We're talking about trust law. That's one item. And then we're talking about repudiation of correcting your status. Correcting your status is what these questions are coming from. That's what David Straight has done. And correcting your status is a personal calling of the soul. For me, when I found out all the fraud, I knew a lot of it 20 years ago. We all did. But when I found out everything, oh my goodness. I wanted to let those folks know I found out how naughty they are, how criminal they are, how nefarious they are, in that they're hurting people. And that's not okay with me. I don't want to live there. I don't want to be associated in any way, shape, or form. So that's why I choose to live in the private and do everything in the private as opposed to there. That's my choice. I mean, who are people to say about other people and their choices that it's right or wrong? They don't know. Only you know, because you're the one affected by what you do or you don't do. So that's my say on it. And, I bless these people that are saying all this stuff. If that person feels that it is a scam and everything else, well, anything that I would think that is a scam, I don't want to be involved in. So I bless him on his journey to not be involved in it. That's all. Ananda, Jason?
Yeah, go ahead, Ananda.
Thank you. Yeah.
Both the same time.
I love what you said, Christo. It is such a personal choice. There's 2 patriots that I love, Jack and Margie Flynn. They teach the constitutional law, and they can stand in any courtroom and win any case, but they know it like the back of their hand. For me, the reason why I became an American State National is it was sort of like a safety net for me, because I don't claim to know constitutional law like the back of my hand and that I can recite court cases just off the top of my head. So what it did for me is it gives me a feeling of security that the corporate government knows that I'm a sovereign. And there's one thing about sovereignty is it's like going to the bathroom. Nobody can do it for you. So it's a personal choice, right? And you have to be in charge of your life and your outcomes. It is so fully responsible. But if we do not tell the corporate government, if we do not rebut their claims, they will stand as truth. And that's recognized in both admiralty law and land jurisdiction. So I feel relieved, happier. I have more pep in my step, if you will, more zest for life since I went through my repudiation process. I can't explain the feeling of I'm standing taller. I feel more confident. I know that people can't mess with me like they used to. And they know it. They can sense it. They're like, uh-oh, she knows probably more than we care to find out. So you get left alone or respected. And, it's a personal choice. It's not for everyone. There's people that have developed their standing so much, they would never need to rely on American state national status. And that's okay. But yeah, it definitely works for me.
Yeah, because I forgot to share that when I did mine, it took me 6 months to finally get it.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really bring it in here. I had it here, but it wasn't here. And I've trained myself, don't do anything unless it's here. And so 6 months to do that. And when I did it, and I read it back to myself, I cried for like an hour. It was the water was coming. It was like so amazing to me. And that has stayed with me all through that. I want to give you a brief story on American National. We have a client. We have a friend that was going through New Mexico. This has happened last week. And there was a federal law enforcement there.
Border Patrol.
And they said to him, "Are you an American citizen?" And he said, "No, I'm a state national. I'm proud of it." And the guy looked at him and said, "Okay, sir, thank you. Have a good afternoon. Go on your way." Oh my God, that's a major big deal because it's the federal law or the Border Patrol, which is part of the Fed thing, that acknowledge being a state national. And we have other stories of that happening. So be happy and be proud if you choose, if that's your path, to choose to do that.
Yeah. And then one more thing, Jay, and then I yield. You want to be certain. You don't want to guess your way forward. So what I recommend to people is take one of our courses, take a David Straight course, take Ananda von Reitz. I don't care who you study with. There's information out there and you're going to resonate with who your teacher is. And it's great. Research them all. Come to your own conclusions. But what happens is as you learn the information and you start vetting it on your own because you are self-responsible as a child of God, kingdom of heaven, a true sovereign is going to be self-responsible. And then you come to your own conclusions and don't do it unless you feel great about it. Because if you do it and you're not self-responsible, then you're going to go and have ill will toward your teacher or one of the ones who are teaching it. Oh, they misled me. They did this. They did that. Those days are numbered. Nobody misleads anybody. We are self-responsible. We learn the information. We vet it. We put our nose to the books. We study it. If it feels right, we do something. But it's better than doing nothing. And while communism takes over our beautiful free republic, no, thank you. I don't want anything to do with that.
That's right.
Okay, that's my 2 cents. I can keep going. I'll stop for now.
I just want to bring out one thing, then please go on. We're used to giving our power away and hiring a bar attorney, hiring a doctor, hiring this, hiring that. No more. To live in the private, in God, the kingdom of heaven, you learn how to be your hero.
Mm-hmm.
You learn. And in bringing in God, he guides us in making choices that stand for freedom and truth. And so it's very important to realize we don't hire anyone. No one defends us or represents us. We stand. And that's different. Some judge said one time, "Oh, so you're representing yourself?" And the guy knew, and he goes, "No, how can I represent myself? I am myself. I'm standing." So good.
So yeah, with that, it's so beautiful what both Christo and Ananda are saying. And the truth is, yes, you are born free. So yeah, what's the point? Ah, there is a point. Because here's the deal. You're not free. Because you're not free unless you know who you are and how to speak substance over form. You're not free because you live in Babylon. You can say that you're free, but if you're punching a clock every single day, you're living in Babylon. If the private officer on the side of the road notices that your taillight's out and pulls you over and you submitted to that, you've now given up your sovereignty because you pulled over to the side of the road. And if you don't know how to stand, like the story that Christo just said about our guy in New Mexico, then you're not free. If you don't know the 14th Amendment and your rights that are protected within the Constitution, then you're not free. And if you happen to get a summons, or if you happen to get called into court, or if you happen to have an attorney come across your path and they say language that you don't understand and you don't know how to stand, then you're not free. But when you realign yourself to knowing who you are, right, and knowing that you are a child of God and you truly are free from within, then your natural byproduct is to get educated and to know how to speak, how to be, and how to act as that which you truly are, free, while navigating through this thing called third dimension, Babylon, so that when the communist traffic patrol pulls you over, and if you see you're American a citizen, and you don't know that the corporation has a war against American citizens, and they decide to take you off to FEMA and force you to get a jab, then you're not free. It's a trick question.
Yeah,
Are you a citizen?
Yeah.
Because if you say you're a citizen, that means you're the property of the corporation called the United States. If you're an American citizen, that means they own you. So yes, you are born free, but it's your responsibility to realize, once you realize that Santa Claus doesn't exist. I'm sorry if anybody believed that he does. Spoiler alert. But once you realize that Santa Claus doesn't exist, you now have a way to navigate through Christmas. Before, when you were a child, you were subject to a belief. And then when you woke up at a certain age or an awakening, you realized, wait, that illusion is not real. And if you believed that an illusion was real, and then all of a sudden something tells you everything you know was a lie, you're going to go downhill pretty fast unless you know who you are, how to stand, and how to integrate through a collapsing paradigm, right? So it's easy for people to say, I was born free, so whatever, I can do whatever I want. Okay, and yes, that's true. However, you are still integrating into a world that has yet to be completely transformed into fourth, fifth, and beyond dimension.
Okay.
And in addition to that, people say, well, why did, like what Colin's question was, well, it's their fraud. It's their fraud. Why do I have to do it? Well, guess what? It's not, even if it was their fraud, it affects you every single day of your life, because if you have a driver's license, if you have a mortgage, if you have any of these things that Babylon is subject to, then guess what? You're not free, because the fraud affects you. And if you're using Federal Reserve notes, then guess what? You're not free. Now, you can use Federal Reserve notes, you can play in Babylon, but if you don't know that Babylon is just an illusion, like the Wizard of Oz is just the man behind the curtain, then you believe the wizard and you're subject, enslaved to it, just like the 14th Amendment said, or just like the 14th Amendment says, if you don't understand how to interpret that. Now, I'm going to wrap this part of the segment up, because this really hits it home for me. And I think many of you have heard this, but this is why, once you realize you're free, for me, I have an innate responsibility. When you realize that Hashem Echad, meaning God is one, which means I am, that means I have a responsibility for everything around me as a free living man I am. I don't know if any of you have heard of the poet Martin Niemöller, who's a German poet. But I'm going to read these quotes to you because I think it's very quick, but this is going to hit it home. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. The point is, you're not alone. You're not an island. When you're free, the default natural byproduct is to help your fellow man. United we stand. We're living in a time right now where that quote I just shared is happening last week to our guy at the border. When you go into a store last year and they tell you to put on a mask, are you free? Do you know how to stand? If they come knocking on your door to take your children, or they tell you to take a jab if you want to, if you don't want to take a jab, are you free? Who's going to left there to defend you if you don't know how to stand? Be in the kingdom of heaven, but realize with the kingdom of heaven comes responsibility to know what you are as a free living man or woman. The repudiation process, whatever process you do, whether it's with us or anybody else out there, it's all about you choosing your path for your kingdom of heaven, but remembering that you're not alone and they will come for you. And we're seeing it every single day. And unless you know who you are and live in that frequency of the heaven, then you're going to be subject to it. Do not put your head in the sand. Do not put your head in denial. Realize where you are. And if you're truly free, then you'll take action, whatever that is, so that you can sustain and know your rights and live as beneficiary, creditor, free living man or woman, and thereby default help others to be free as well.
Now, that's
why
beautiful, Jason. In association with that, it's very important to understand something. I forget who said it on the comments side, but they said, hey, we're supposed to be born free. Why do we have to put up with all this nonsense, pretty much? And I just want to say, the reason that this is happening on this planet today is because we have forsaken God. Now, we heard the term forsaken God. What does that really mean? Okay, so God is truth, is he not? God is love, is he not? God loves all of us, does he not? Right? So how we have forsaken God, how humanity has forsaken God, and this started a long time ago, 50 years ago, maybe more. How humanity has forsaken God is we didn't pay attention any longer. We didn't know, we forgot who we were. We forgot we were free. We forgot being free has a responsibility. A responsibility to what? To do exactly what Jason was saying, to help your neighbor, to bring out the truth. If some darkness comes the way by the way of laws or some sort of administration or whatever, you have to be heard. You have to stand. That is living God. God is just not heart, oh, I love God. No, God is action. God is living and applying God's law. We have a responsibility. The reason that this is going on and on and on in the world is because most people do not get into action. What happens when you see in Europe and various countries, millions of people go out in the streets? In a couple of the countries, they took over the government. That's really being in action. I'm not saying to do that here. I'm just saying that's in action because people had it up to here. Finally, they're coming alive. Finally, they're bringing God consciousness with them, helping thy neighbor, united together. Oh my God, you can even feel it as the words come out. Oh my God, this is what it takes to regain the heaven that is already here, that never went away. It was just covered up with the muck called the darkness. So that's why we're doing this here. That's why we're so devoted. That's why all of us here, we put 60, 70 hours doing this because it's a calling from God. It's a calling of our soul. And so it's very important to realize what forsaking God means. So we got to get out of forsaking God. And how you do that is you gain the knowledge, just like the Bible said. I think Jesus said that my people perish for lack of knowledge. Well, you have a responsibility to gain that wisdom, to gain the knowledge. Also, one other thing, knowledge and wisdom, two different things. Knowledge is I get it intellectually. Wisdom is I applied it and experienced it, and now I have the wisdom. Nobody can tell me anything different because I applied God's law. Is that amazing or what?
I love that.
So please stop forsaking God and let's get into action together and celebrate.
Yes, yes. And you can get into action because we have a lot of workshops coming up. We're so excited.
Ananda's in charge of the commercials, by the way.
Okay,
Nice.
so
Great
we
segue.
have
Love it.
Des Moines, Iowa on October 29th and 30th.
Thanks, Debbie.
We have a weekend workshop. That's a level 1. That's a repudiation workshop. So if you do want to learn about what it means to become an American state national, you certainly don't have to become an American state national. But if you want to learn about it, what does that process look like? Is that something I want to do? We're going to go over all the steps all the way through to diplomatic immunity passport. So when you correct your status, I am living it. And it was an empowering, life-changing, miraculous experience that I went through. So I highly recommend it. Then we also have a level 2 coming up a level 1 repudiation, correcting your status masterclass in the outskirts of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, coming up November 5th and 6th. That's the correcting your status level 1. It's the repudiation class. And that one's going to be epic. We're going to have a really great crowd there. And our host, Laura, is actually on the chat right now and giving a shout out about the event. And you can visit our website. Thank you, ML, for putting our website here so people can visit the website, click on the flyer for the event, and then learn about it or call us or whatever you need to do to find out more.
Miami.
And then we have one, this is coming up in Palm Beach, Florida. And just an apology real quick, we had to change the dates on that one. That one's going to be on November 12th and 13th, but it's good news because it's coming up sooner than December. So Palm Beach, Florida, that's November 12th and 13th. That's a level 2 masterclass. That's Operation of Trust. So recommended for folks after you become an American state national, you'd want to attend the level 2 class, but we do open the level 2 class to anybody who wants to learn about it because it's for everyone. And it's really important stuff that you're going to want to know.
Then
in
we
the
have
coming
a
days.
I believe in Jacksonville, Oregon.
Yes, and dates, I believe it's going to be the end of October, and we'll have our flyer up and dates confirmed probably by tomorrow. So just check back to our website.
Another little treat of what it means to be in action. We are meeting tomorrow in person for a 2-hour meeting with our sheriff. This will be our 7th meeting in the last year with him. 7th meeting with our sheriff. We don't have short meetings; they're 2 or 3 hours, and we are really educating him. And he's all ears. He's a Christian man. He's got a beautiful family. We love him. He hasn't taken the whole thing yet of getting into becoming totally constitutional county, but we're real close because we're going to tell him some things tomorrow. And tell him with evidence, law, even his own statutes that they're breaking, and to realize if he continues to be in that corporate world, he's in treason to God, to his family, to himself, and to the people. He must realize this, and he's going to. Hi, Sheriff. Thank you. Now, here's one thing. I wanted to address one thing that's important. And I love all the things that the CB's daughter is putting on there. Thank you, CB's daughter. And somebody wrote her and said that Lincoln was one of the worst presidents in the world. And she said, why would you say that? And Jason says,
I say because Lincoln So everything you know is a lie. Let's just start there, okay?
Let's start our events. That's the
Yeah.
first thing to say.
Come to our events and we'll tell you all about it. But the nutshell is this. Abraham Lincoln, he was the very first president that basically sold our country down the river. Washington did it as well. But Lincoln basically opened up the corporation with the crown. He also brought in what was called the Lieber Code. The Lieber Code put the entire country into martial law. So we've been in martial law ever since. The reason why he did that was so that he could be a dictator under the guise of commander-in-chief, so that he could control whatever he wanted, because the only way a president can be a dictator is through emergency, therefore emergency orders, right? And then the emergency that he created was this Civil War type of thing. So now he was able to do commander-in-chief and then put people in martial law, which was able to take their rights away. And then the most cruel thing that he did was he brought the bar. He was a bar attorney, and he brought the bar into our country and our courts. The problem being is that the bar is aligned to the crown, and the original 13th Amendment said that there is it's called a nobility clause, that nobody with any type of nobility title, meaning an esquire, a knight, or whatever, is allowed to be in Congress, is allowed to work in our courts, because they would be aligned to a foreign country. And every attorney is basically an esquire, which is the rank right below a knight, which means by definition they're aligned to the crown, which is a conflict of interest for anybody who's an American in the Republic. Now, to his defense, he did. I feel he had an awakening while he was in there. And he tried to create his own currency within the country so that he could get away from the big bankers. And that's when he created the greenbacks. Okay. The greenbacks was circulating money within our own country, so he wouldn't have to be reliant upon the Rothschilds and the big bankers. That was a no-no for the big bankers, which is why they probably assassinated him. But overall, he did more damage than good. So he was one of our most misrepresented presidents through history, if you will, than what the truth really is.
Now, it's not only with Lincoln. In your history and what we all grew up, they celebrate presidents and make them saints. And in actual fact, they were against God. They were anti-God, anti-Christ, anti-freedom, anti-people, such as Roosevelt. What did he do for us? He took our gold away. Oh, how wonderful. They even announced it in books. He was helping the nation and trying to rectify it, so he took the gold away. Doesn't even make any sense.
Well,
Wilson,
just a second. Let me interject real quick, Christo.
Yes, sir.
Roosevelt was probably the most truthful president in this one aspect when he said, presidents are selected, not elected.
That is true.
That's true.
That is true.
See, even the darkest of dark have some goodness weep out of them somehow. That's so true. Thank you for bringing that up. So what we're saying is, don't believe your history books or your history lessons. It's all 90% of it is trash. And it's
and it's so devastating because so many of us have loved Lincoln and thought he was a good, honest man. And sadly, we're learning that a lot of the things we thought were good, maybe there was some private meetings going on and things like that. Jay, I know you're more of the history buff. I always say, don't have me teach history because I was never good at remembering all the dates and everything and who did what. But the one thing I do know is that the original organic 13th Amendment said no titles of nobility. The next thing that happens is Lincoln comes in. He's a bar attorney, which is an esquire, which is a title of nobility. So right there, that goes against our republic, which is no titles of nobility are going to be able to hold this position. So he steps in. Then wasn't it when he was in office when the 14th Amendment was added where it turned persons, the meaning of persons used to mean people, living, breathing men and women. And then when the 14th Amendment came, it turned persons into corporations or entities that can be owned. And that entity that is spoken of, the person, is called your all caps name on your birth certificate. So for those of you who are new to this, that whenever you see a name in all caps, just know that's a corporation. And what's a corporation? It's a dead entity. So it's a corpse oration. It's a dead entity. It doesn't have the living, breathing man or woman's best interest at heart. In addition to that, a corporation's only interest is in profits. So its whole existence is for creating more money. And so when you see your name in all caps, just know that that's the corporate government wanting to capitalize on you. And that all started, sadly, with Lincoln, who we thought was a good guy. And in many ways, he might have been, but he might have been playing both sides. He might have been bought. We don't know because, the history's been so messed up with lies. So we're trying to sift through all of the information and figure out what in the heck happened. A lot of the things point to he wasn't always on the level.
Yeah. Hey, Mel,
that was for CB's daughter.
Did we answer the question?
She was sad about what you said, Jay. What's that, Christo?
Did we answer the question of what you brought out with that gentleman that said that it's a scam? Okay, good. Excellent.
Awesome.
All right. Where do you want to go from here,
Absolutely. Well, let's see.
Question and answer.
So I'm curious personally. Yeah. Well, either Jason is fine with this one because I think he was dealing with this issue the most. So our friend in Eastern Idaho, I'm interested to find out, was there a resolution to that situation with their parents' property? Did that get taken care of? Is that finished, or is that still an ongoing thing?
Well, I thank you for asking that question. I won't go into the details because it's private and confidential, but we haven't had a complete resolution. But I will tell you, the courts are freaking out and they are doing things like you have never seen before because they don't know what hit them. Let's just put it this way. There are a lot of levels that have been notified through our processes, and a lot of them have gone silent since we've submitted some of our administrative processes, and they are literally freaking out like chickens with their heads cut off, and they don't know what to do. And so they've kind of like just become paralyzed. So now we're just going, okay, good. We want you in the up against the ropes. And now we're going to just wait for our final knockout punch, but it's part of the processes. So it's moving, and it's moving in a positive way. So thank you for asking.
Absolutely. That's great. I am so happy to hear that. Yeah,
they
absolutely.
Freaking out so much. Crazy. Did you tell them they sent back all the documents?
Yeah, they sent back all the documents, which was a beautiful thing because they entrapped themselves by doing that. And so we ended up sending them all back to them and said, we don't understand. Why would you do this? And by the way, you've kept very specific documents, which inadvertently has made you admit that you are the trustee. So what say you? Right now it's crickets. So, but it's very, very good. It's very, very positive. It's a lot of fun, Cohen. It's a lot of fun.
Yay, just go over the Washington, because I don't know if you completed that, the Washington situation.
Oh, there was a lot of administrative process back and forth with the courts, all the way to some higher courts. And then with our last, we had him in the corner. And it was like Rocky in the last round. And that's when we said, no worry, gave him a massage in the corner. And then we sent one last document. And when we sent that one last document, that was our knockout punch. And then our guy up in Washington went online, and all of a sudden there was no more record of the case after he had been dealing with it for like 2 years. And then we were working with him for, a matter of some months because of the depth of the situation. But we went to the end. So Cohen, go to the end. and then you'll get that final round. And again, it's a lot of fun. So he's elated.
It's really important to have tenacity and to see it all through, because the outcome you're going to love. Even at times when it doesn't appear to be, you have the truth on your side. We know what to say, how to say it, and you want to stay clean. To give you an example real quickly, when we were doing affidavits against people being, especially nurses being fired because they didn't want the jab, we were working with 88 nurses or healthcare people. One saw it all the way through. 87 got nothing from it, lost their job. The one that saw it all the way through, make a long story short, she was just given 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago a huge financial compensation for wrongful termination.
Yay.
Exactly.
Good for her.
Proof of the pudding. Oh my goodness. And it took over a year for that to happen. So that's tenacity and really knowing that you are standing in God's law.
And the best thing about that particular case is that part of the settlement that she received was that they had to make a public apology for wrongful termination as a direct result of trying to force her to get the jab or not wear a mask. So they had to publicly admit that they were wrong with that. So we asked her, we said, in that settlement, did they say you can go public or not with that? And they said, yeah, they never said anything. I said, well, that's great for us, because guess what you're doing? You're telling the world about that. And that's one of the things we're going to be sharing with our sheriff tomorrow, because he wants to know, because he now wants to go knocking on businesses' doors and saying, hey, this happened locally. No more wrongful terminations. No more forcing people to do things against their will, because you're free. It's a beautiful thing.
Amazing.
That's great. That is wonderful. Well, I think we look at what's happening, regardless of what's happening across the pond over there, here in our own backyard, it's really interesting to see what is taking place here. I mean, just in the last week, we've had this terrible hurricane in Florida. And I've seen videos of individual citizen journalists in these locations, like the Gulf of Mexico. There's like, where did the water go? The Gulf of Mexico is like, the water's gone. Tampa Bay, the water's gone. I mean, the water along that whole coastal line is like rescinded and disappeared. And it's really interesting, some of these supernatural phenomenons that are actually taking place. I mean, we're looking up into the heavenlies, and we're starting to see spectacular events, changes, anomalies that are taking place. We have so many people that, a lot of people are in this great awakening. They've been in this for a while. Those of us that have been in the Great Awakening for quite a while, we're kind of shifting into the true awakening, because now we're going into the deeper recesses of this Great Awakening, if you will, where we're finding out what you guys are just saying. Everything's been a lie. Our whole history has been a lie, an absolute lie, and how they've covered those things up, and how, we're dealing with the last remnants of the dark ones here on this planet, per se. Okay. And even in our own country, it's fascinating to see that as much pain and suffering is going on financially, fuel is being artificially, downplayed price-wise, because we're using all of our strategic oil reserves right now, which are supposed to be supposedly depleted by the first part of November, right around, midterm time itself, right? And we have all these woes taking place. I said it 3 times, woes taking place, okay, here. So but yet, even with that, we're still abundant. We're still abundant. It's like a lot of individuals that I interact with a lot of times, they're oblivious to a lot of the stuff that's actually happening, honestly. Even though it's hitting them hard in their pocketbooks, they're still kind of oblivious as to kind of a dire situation that we're in at this point in time itself. And I know people are asking me, well, what's the point of me going and doing all this work and going through this process when, you know, everything's just going to fall out from underneath it and we're not going to be left with anything? And I'm like, not necessarily, guys. Not necessarily. You guys, and I know you guys understand this. We're talking about duality. All right. We're talking about duality here. And this is a hard thing for most people to wrap their head around, the fact that the way God works, prophecy has multiple, it's multidimensional, has multiple purpose and meaning behind prophecy. It's never singular or linear in purpose. It never is. But that's how most people's minds think, is at that linear level, never multidimensional itself. And that's where you guys, what do you got there, Christo?
It's not vodka. It's not tequila. It's H2O.
Beautiful bottle.
Isn't that beautiful?
Beautiful.
You want some, ML?
That is. That's why you caught my attention. Okay.
Fill her up, please.
Yeah,
Gotta stay hydrated, do we not?
Yeah.
Do you know that truth is hot? Heat. When you have truth in you, you actually get really hot. That's why two lovers come together to get really hot. And they even turned that around hundreds of years ago, indicating that hot is of the devil of hell. That's not true. The darkness is extremely cold. When you are cold and you get warm, how does it feel? That's the heat coming in. When you do deep breathing, pranayama, meditation, what happens? The fire within starts to flame up. Do you know love energy, when it goes into a higher experience, is actually light energy? That's why a lot of people starting to go into the spirit, they go love and light. So we must realize that they turn everything around the other way to confuse us. They can't improve God, so they take God's law and they put darkness in it, and that's what confuses people. Until the flame starts to burn because you're associating with truth and truthful people, and all of a sudden the knowing starts to become you again in our natural state of being. It's so important. So important to realize that this is a calling of our soul. If you partake in any kind of application of God's law, you are living a high truth of what you are, because we are in the image and likeness of God. And in doing that, do you know that in the way we are on planet Earth right now, we actually fell as a humanity into the darkness? That's obvious. But we aren't dark, we're coming back up. So in falling in, we become unconscious and unaware. The rise up is expanding our awareness and our ability and willingness to not only give love, but the really hard part is to be able to receive love, to receive God, because we're used to having that we are not worth it. You know that when we're raised, a lot of times our parents that love us condition us with a bunch of no's. No, Johnny, don't eat that meat. No, don't be angry with me. No, don't pee yourself. No, don't play with that shiny knife. We get so many no's. Now, our parents, we love them. They were good for us. But those no's go into our consciousness when we're 1 year old to 8 years old, when we're most sensitive. and we start to believe that we can't have what we want and that we aren't worth anything. Oh my God. That brings us into what ML was speaking of, the duality. That's the conflict within. The conflict within is, I want to do this, I better not do this. Oh, there's a conflict there. That's not the way God meant us to be. God is the one. We're in God consciousness, we're of the one. When we return to the one within our being, there is no conflict within. When there's no conflict within, there's no conflict without. Because the world is a reflection of all of us, of what's happening inside. Isn't that amazing? That's why a lot of people that were on, and I thank all the audience and all the people. Thank you so much. I've been reading your comments. You are so aware and so wonderful. And so in that, when we realize that, that's the return of the kingdom of heaven. That's the return to God. And we're no longer forsaking him because we're taking responsibility, learning the wisdom, learning the knowledge, learning the wisdom, and now applying it and sharing it with all of our brothers and sisters. So be it.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was the minister of me coming out. Sorry about that.
Mhm.
And
Oh, that's actually perfect, Christos, because Ryan DeBeer asked, what does it mean by the bride of Christ?
I don't have the answer to that. Do you, ML?
What is meant by the bride of Christ?
Yeah. I don't have the answer.
Well, we're the bride.
Okay.
Right.
I'll just go with what
Christ is the bridegroom.
I'll just go with what it feels like for me with my experience with it. When you have in Judaism, in the purity of Judaism, there's what's called the Sabbath, Shabbat. But before you can have Shabbat, you have to bring in what's called the Shekinah, which is the divine feminine energy. You actually sing L'chadodi L'krat Kala. What that means is like you're bringing in the divine presence. Christo has talked about that divinity, God energy is feminine in creativity. Mm-hmm. When you reach a place of Christ consciousness, Christ, Mashiach, is anointed. That's what it translates to, anointed. It doesn't mean a man or a woman. It means anointed. What that means is when you are anointed, you realize and you remember your consciousness of one with God. Then you become whole again with your masculine and your feminine. And within your heart, you are whole, like the Shekinah is present within you, and you return to the Sabbath. In Judaism, they say that at the end of days, there will be no religion, there will be no separation, there will be no Babylon. There will only be the Sabbath. The Sabbath is where everybody's eating at the table together, celebrating life, celebrating the goddess, the Shekinah, L'chadodi, remembering that you are whole in your heart and you are one with God, and the trust is I and my father and mother are one. The marriage of the bride of the Christ consciousness is you becoming whole and returning to the Sabbath within you, and you enter and live in the kingdom of heaven. Mm-hmm. That's how I see it to be.
I like that, Jay.
Yeah, that was very good.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Does any of your audience have any questions?
Well, let's see here. Okay, so Laura Matika asked, as a state national, would someone still be able to receive their Social Security benefits?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You put into it and you're the beneficiary on the trust, and there's money in your trust account. And yes, you absolutely will be able to receive your benefits.
You never lose anything by correcting your status. You gain being able to be in 3 jurisdictions: the air, the water, the land. By the way, Ananda gives a really nice thing of land, air, water. What does that spell, the first letters of that? Cohen, what does that spell? Huh?
Law.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, because when you think of God granting us dominion over the land, the air, and the water, and the first three, or the first letter of each of those spells out law, I think to myself, wouldn't it be a good idea to master each jurisdiction? Each one of those are jurisdictions. And so corporate law is the water jurisdiction. That's synonymous with Roman law or civil law or political law or mob rule.
Law. Yep.
Statutes, codes, ordinances. That's all water jurisdiction. And then we elevate. We were out at sea, and then we learn how to crawl and then walk. We're on solid ground. We got a good foundation. That's the supreme law of the land under God. And this is where we have constitutional law and common law, where we have common sense. Hopefully we get our common sense back because we can see easily. We're living man. So there's blood and flesh and blood. So as the living man in land jurisdiction, you would autograph in red ink. And when you're out at sea, you'd use blue ink or black ink. It's the sea of the dead. And then as you elevate, you come up into air jurisdiction, which is trust law. God's divine, the heirs to the kingdom of heaven, and your royal color will be purple. And so, yeah, you got your purple pen. That's when you're going to sign in the middle of the page, and you're going to sign for any trust, any application of trust. You sign in the middle. And if it were me, I'd use purple ink. But as the living, we can use any color we want. And I recommend to never use black because that's indication of sea of the dead. So, but yeah, it's exciting. And then once you learn what jurisdiction you're in, then you can learn how to operate in each one, know what hat you're going to wear at what time. Well, today I'm going to the market and I'm going to engage in commerce. So I'm going to wear this hat. And then, oh, now I'm traveling in my private automobile. And I'm a man on the land, and I have the right to travel and manage. We don't operate an automobile. We manage the automobile. So we go back to some old school language, but it starts getting really fun. And the more you learn it, the more you want to learn it, because it just gets more empowering.
Speaking of learning, we have a dictionary that's called the Dictionary That Can Save Your Life. If you notice that all of us have been using words, and sometimes we explain them, there are over 300 words in legalese that the court system uses. There it is. Ananda's showing it now. And in that, if you do not know those words, they will trick you, and that's how they railroad you to have you be guilty. And so in realizing the words, you up your game in that, because let's go over a few of those. Like mortgage means what, Jay?
Death pledge.
Yeah.
Citizen means what's Ananda?
Municipal servant.
A judge means what?
Banker.
Banker.
Isn't
Jay,
that
what's the French word for bench, Jay?
Bank.
Exactly. It's all about the money, right? Because they have to bring the money in. But this is what the court system views every people. I didn't make a mistake. What does person mean?
Corporation.
So I don't use person in that way, because we're not a corporation. That's the all caps name. By the way, Lincoln is the one that brought that out way back in 1860 something. And so in that, all these words, because we don't know their language, they deem us as being stupid and incompetent, and they are right. Another point of view that's a little different when you're dealing with the court system is that there is no fraud and the court never makes a mistake. You must find the truth of that in order for you to be confident that you will apply trust law adequately, that you will absolutely come shining in the light in any situation administratively with that. So these words are extremely important, and I urge anyone to get the book because it could save your life. Really, it's pretty amazing.
I agree, and it's not we the persons, it's we the people. So don't accidentally refer to yourself as a person, because then it will be assumed that you're a ward of the state, and you'll be deemed incompetent. So we are a people. I'm a woman. Wow. And these are appropriate. And Jay, I think you touched. Oh, Christo, you go ahead.
Well, the judge will often ask, even if you show up in court, which we don't recommend, he'll ask you straight out, who are you? And if you don't have the answer of who you are, you will put yourself back in their jurisdiction, and that's the end of the game. You're going to be guilty. So you must know the answers to any trickery questions that they may ask. They also do that administratively in various ways. Like they may send you a document and it'll be all caps name addressed to you in all caps name. Do you know if you open that, you just committed mail fraud? It's all caps name, your name, but it's all caps. That's not you. That's your straw man. That is your vessel. That is how the trust is created, and that's how every mortgage that you have, every DMV thing, every car you buy, anything, if it's addressed in all caps name, it's the all caps that is doing that commerce, not you. And in that, I don't know if I should say this, in that, all the charges to that, when you give your social and you sign on the dotted line, they pull the money of that out of your trust, out of your all caps name. And when they give you the monthly charges to pay monthly, they're double dipping. It's already paid for. That's why people are so up in arms when they find out about that. And there's ways of handling that in certain situations. But again, we don't teach going into the trust. But just so you have that knowledge. Anybody want to add something to that?
I love this conversation so much. And I just want to compliment the viewers and those that are chiming in, because all of these comments are so intelligent. Language is a spell. It's spelling, capital words. It's a corporate company. The court is where you play a game. A game has two sides. It's a court. You're volleying back and forth. Someone's served. And then if you choose to volley back, now you're in the game. And the court has a referee. The referee is called the judge. Courts run on assumptions, presumptions, and these things need to be rebutted. That's actually in the dictionary that can save your life, the 12 presumptions of the court. If you do not rebut the presumptions, they will stand as truth. So you have to rebut their claims, and they'll decide all sorts of crazy things about you. So you better know how to rebut their claims.
Oh, yes. And on that note, that just reminded me of something that I wanted to say earlier when Cohen had brought that question in about why are we doing this. There's a law. It's called the law of assumption. And the law of assumption is that which stands as true unless you debunk that assumption. So the corporation created all these statutes and codes and so on and so forth, and it's all admiralty, it's all maritime, it's all contract, really. And so what happens is, if they're operating on this assumption that all of their contracts and all of their codes and everything is standing as true, then anybody, is subject to them based on the presumption and the assumption that those statutes, codes, and laws are true. So unless you rebut those with clarification, with right law, with right language, with right consciousness, then through the law of assumption, you will stand as subject to their laws, codes, and rules and regulations based off of the operation of law, meaning the law of assumption stands true. So technically, you're not free from their point of view. Therefore, the Border Patrol saying, are you an American citizen? And if somebody says, yeah, I'm an American citizen, that means you've just, through their law of assumption, just subjected yourself to whatever the American citizens' codes, rules, laws, and regulations are. And if down in New Mexico, they're taking citizens away, right? Who the heck knows what that means?
How about if somebody says I'm a sovereign citizen?
Well, then they're double-minded, number one, because sovereignty by definition means that you are self-contained, you are whole, and a citizen, as Ananda was defining it, was sharing the definition, not she defining it, but sharing the definition, is that you're a municipal servant. So how can one be sovereign as well as a servant? So the point of the matter is, through the law of assumption, unless you rebut those assumptions, the assumptions stand as true and you're subject to them, especially in the court. Now, we debunk all these assumptions through the administrative process, and therefore the court we take the wind out of the sails of the court. I just wanted to bring that up too.
I like that.
Yeah.
CB's daughter wrote about a grandbaby coming soon, and can they avoid the birth certificate? The answer is yes. You don't have to sign or accept the offer from the state. You don't need to join hands with the state and sign the baby into debt slavery, if you will. You don't need their family name converted into an all caps name. So you can absolutely not do it. Now, at the hospital, they'll probably go, what are you talking about? No, you have to. And who knows, they may get really, really stern or firm about it. But one thing you can do, in place of the father's name, you put child of God. And you can write, actually, I would recommend that you contact us or our website and just email us, and we can give you some different suggestions on how to autograph it.
There's another item there too, Ananda, as you know this for sure, is that you can't let them take the baby to go clean the baby off, because when they do that, they're going to jab your newborn baby with that's right,
PKU test.
They're going to give it, they're going to give it a vaccination. Really, it's called a. Do you remember what that is, Ananda? It's
like a DAT.
Anyway, don't let them take the baby out of your sight. So you must have other people there with you. Yep. For me, I wouldn't even go to the hospital. I would do.
The mama works at the hospital, so they're probably going to do a hospital birth.
That's okay. I don't care. I mean, what's important? The babies think. You know?
Exactly. If it were me, I would not do the hospital birth, because then you could get pressured into doing something, coerced, ganged up on. And, you know, with the way the system is right now, in the medical world, it could be a difficult situation. You're better off to get a midwife or do a home birth.
Yeah.
The other thing at the hospital too, now I'm not sure where you're located at. Remember, statute codes and regulations are not law. Okay, they're bylaws of the corporation. So when a baby comes into this world, the baby is pure. It's kingdom of heaven. It's under no jurisdiction. The baby is the property of the parents until they sign it over, and give the title over. Right. So that means that baby's under the jurisdiction of the one pure creator. Therefore, the question is, what is the law that says I have to have a birth certificate?
Well, yes. And that depends on the status of the parent. If the parent hasn't corrected their status, the state claims jurisdiction over the parent, and whatever the parent births is the product of the state. So you have to make claim and then claim again. You have to correct your status on the record and then make sure that the status of your baby is noted. But one way around that, again, is if you were to sign that document or autograph that document, make sure in the father's name, you put Father God, not father of the baby.
I remember the shot that they give the baby. It's actually, they call it a vitamin K, but that's not the truth. It really is a Hep B shot, vaccination shot, hepatitis B. Can you imagine that?
Not only that, one step further. So when they prick the baby's heel with that PKU, right? They prick the baby's heel. They take that DNA, because that's what they're doing, is profiling that infant, and they're putting that DNA blood sample into a international database.
That's right.
That's what they're doing with that as well. And this is how they're able to track bloodline. Again, they're able to track the we can go a whole other show into that area. Trust me. Maybe we should do that on Thursday night, go into a greater detail.
Now, Betty Daly just mentioned, and she's so right, they actually will notify child services and try to take the baby away.
That's another red flag possibility. Yep. So you want to be super, and they would actually have the right to do it if you hadn't corrected your status on the record and that you could prove that you're not a U.S. citizen or a state citizen, or excuse me, not a state citizen, a ward of the state. So
there's also the other element too, that in as much as it's admiralty, if you are in Babylon and you're a ward of the state, the offer to contract can easily be declined within Admiralty maritime law. So if they're offering to contract, and I've actually worked with somebody out here locally who did this, she asked for a form in the hospital that says, I'm opting out. There's a lot of 3-letter alleged government agencies that have forms within their own system that you can basically say, no, thank you, I'm not filling out that form. I'm declining that offer, meaning the birth certificate offer, and I'm going to raise you with this form. May I please see that form for me to opt out? And then offer decline is another possibility. This is all for educational purposes and entertainment. Just do your own research.
Protect your baby. Protect your baby. Whatever you have to do to protect your baby or grandbaby. Make sure to get your kids, grandbabies educated as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been
we're 2 hours and 17 minutes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think maybe what we'll do is close down for tonight. We'll be back Thursday night, picking up from where we left off. And I encourage you guys, not you guys, but the viewers, if you guys have some great questions tonight, come back with your questions on Thursday night. All right. We can get pretty deep, so to speak, into these things, but we also have to be careful because we know how these guys like to censor and things of that nature as well on these platforms. So we have to be careful in certain areas itself. But what I'd like to do is, before we close out, I'm going to play a song for us, and it's a very spiritual song. And I know Jay will love this. Cohen's going to. I mean, everybody's going to love it, but I think it'll probably hit Jay and Cohen and myself, and well, probably everybody. But I'm going to share this with you guys, and then we'll just close it out. And what I'd like to do is if we could get one of you beautiful divine people to say a blessing over us before we leave, that'd be great, because I know a lot of us are in need of those extra prayers. So let me do this.
I'd love to do that. The actor that you began this video with, this interview with, that actor that was so amazing. Yeah. What was his name?
Charlie Chaplin.
That's what I thought. Do you know Charlie Chaplin was actually, he was pushed out of America, and he had to live a lot of his life in France and England because of what he stood for. And he stood for the truth. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. Okay.
Pretty amazing.
Thank you all very much. ML, thank you so much for having this show. Oh, that's another question I had. Where did Redneck Renegade come from, the name?
My brain.
I thought it was
well, I mean, I'm a redneck. There's different levels of redneck. I'm considered a high class redneck. A lot of people ask me, You know, hey ML, how you doing? And I tell him I couldn't be better than a one-legged redneck in an ass-kicking contest. So you know, I don't.
Awesome. This prayer is for all rednecks as well. Beloved Father.
We call it redneckify. Go ahead, brother.
No, thank you. Beloved Father, Blessed Mother, O great Spirit that lives in each and every one of us, we love you so much. Thank you so much for guiding us, for all these great souls coming together in the name of love, in the name of wisdom, in the name of oneness. We love you so much, and we are doing everything we can. We are all in bringing back your law, your planet. We know that we have to do it. Please instill upon us the courage, the tenacity, the joy, the love of bringing light, of bringing your wisdom, your love to all the peoples of humanity again. Give us the courage to say the right words, to talk to the right people, that it may instill upon and move through all of humanity your love, that they feel it. That if they were ready to do a nefarious thing, all of a sudden they get smacked in the heart with your love and they stop and they don't do it. Oh my God, we love you so much for all this. Thank you. And if there's anything you want any of us to do, we are listening. Listening, and we are your soldiers of light. Thank you for this lifetime. Thank you for every breath. Thank you for reminding us that gratefulness brings more, that compassion is so important, and that humility and all of the wisdom and knowledge that we receive, we never believe in our press releases. We always are humble in our reception of your wisdom. And most important, that we forgive everyone, that we forgive ourselves, the four virtues that we so entrust and brings us closer to you. We love you, we love you, we love you. And we love the journey that you have presented to us so that we do not forsake you anymore. We have learned from our sin and we repent. We have learned and we love so much, filled with your wisdom and love. Let me be an entrusted warrior for you. Thank you very much. And I just am so grateful that I heard your calling. And I ask you every day, and I know that all of us ask you, what do you want me to do today? For I am your servant, and I stand under you, and I love you, and I know all of us united will bring back the kingdom of heaven once again, so that we all experience it every day, every second. I'm grateful for every breath. I love you. I love you. I love you. So be it.
So be it.
So be it.
So be it.
And so it is.
Thank you. All right. I would like to share this. This will close us out. And you guys, we're going to be back here Thursday night for part 5 of our series with these beautiful divine souls as well. So here we go. Thank you.
Beautiful, ML.
Oh, that one gets me over.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Blessings, all. We'll see you guys.
You too. God bless you. Good to see you, Colin.
Thank you. Thank you. So beautiful.
See you Thursday.